Hi everybody, and welcome to the first event of the Full Send Sims Esports iRacing Series, tonight featuring round one of the first season of the 2023 Spec Miata Championship. We are racing just a bit south of Miami, Florida. The beautiful views you see here, but in the town of Homestead, Florida, where Homestead-Miami Speedway lies. It was built by Ralph Sanchez, started construction in 1993, opened in 1995. It was built to help the Homestead area regenerate itself after the horrors of Hurricane Andrew. And it opened in 1995 with a NASCAR Busch Series race. In the spring of 1996, the Kart Indy cars had their first race there. Here is a look at Homestead Speedway, originally configured as a 1.5 mile, absolutely perfectly laid out version of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The oval later refigured into an actual oval setup. And of course, we are running on the Roval here, and that track 2.21 miles long, and it is a fun challenge. We are looking forward to this. We are looking forward to the full season of racing here. Hi everyone, I am Greg Creamer, joined by Kyle Heyer, and we're going to be having the distinct pleasure of making the call on this first ever FSS Esports iRacing Series Spec Miata season race. Kyle, Homestead-Miami Speedway, whether it's in iRacing, virtual racing, or whether it's on the track in real Spec Miata cars, this place seems to be a real favorite for this category.
Thanks, Greg, and I love this place. This is such a unique Roval configuration across North America. There's all sorts of tracks that have these configurations that a lot of the NASCAR folks don't even know exist. The innards of the Homestead-Miami Speedway, used by the Grand Am Rolex Series for a handful of years, Greg. It's got a couple key features that I'm really excited to watch these NC Generation MX-5 Cup cars roll around on. Turn 11 in particular, a fast left-hander with a big compression. It'll be a lot of fun here. Qualifying underway for our two 25-minute races.
Absolutely, and I'll tell you, we've got a couple of huge braking events, which means big traction events leading out of very tight corners onto fast sections of the track. You've got to flow speed through these corners, and right now, doing the best job of that is the number 40 of Morgan Burkhardt. He has turned a 144.274. Best time we saw in practice was a 144.7. So Morgan right here in the red number 40 out of the Virginias, as this thing really in hand right now, Kyle. He's up by over 0.3 of a second over Beans Forster and Skip Brock Jr.
Yeah, really quick lap for Morgan Burkhardt. I've seen him in a handful of iRacing series. He is going to be stout, and I don't know that there's anybody that I've seen race against him directly here in this series. This is new for a lot of drivers here tonight, as Morgan has to take evasive action down there at turn number 2. But Beans Forster, you mentioned him, the 23, about 0.3 back. He might be the best arrow in the quiver to go up there and take down Burkhardt before the qualifying session is over.
Yeah, and the guy who topped practice was Nicholas Rasputo in the number 11, but he sits fourth right now, about a half second adrift of Burkhardt, who really found something here, and timely as well, because as we saw him skating off the track, not a lot of time left in this session to be able to get back out. But with that margin right now, Kyle, I would think he's pretty well set. He'll certainly be starting right up near the front, if not on that pole.
Certainly is in a great spot. 7 minutes remain here in qualifying. Here's Skip Brock Jr. running third right now. He's about 0.4 off of Morgan Burkhardt, so he might have something to say about pole here at the end of the session as well. One thing to keep an eye on here is the track conditions here, Greg. It is toasty out there on the racetrack. The track temperature 120 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, pleasant air out there right now, but the track temp right off the hook, so got to be a little bit mindful. This track does take its toll on tires. Lots of serious, as I said, direction changes, heavy braking, hard acceleration, and you're leaning on the tires big time, and you got to be a little bit mindful of that. And Skip Brock Jr. was third in practice, so he's sticking right in that window, sitting fifth to 26th at Charles Boley, having a good run as well as we watch Jason Myers here, ninth, hop on board the driver, the number 88.
Had a big moment down there at turn one, just dropped the right rear tire in the grass. Mentioned a lot of those big braking moments. There's a handful of them that take you right to the edge of the course, Greg, and we see that a lot where drivers just get the loaded tire up in the grass and have a big moment, oversteer on corner entry.
Yeah, maybe take a look here. This is a very important run down into turn 6, very fast section of the track. This is one of those heavy braking sections. Load the car up, but you need to keep the momentum alive, because right here you're full throttle, maybe even before that, and through 7 here, really in these cars this turn doesn't exist, but you get up to turn 8 that's coming up, this long infield straight. This is critical, getting into it, great overtaking area, but getting out, if you have a problem into this corner, you're going to be struggling all the way down that whole back stretch up on the oval.
Down a couple gears to second gear here in the NC MX-5, and then back up through them again. Lots of high speed here and lots of straightaway for slipstream, Greg. These cars don't have a lot of power, and they do make a lot of drag as well. So get tucked in behind somebody, and you can find a couple extra miles an hour. That's critical here in qualifying.
Here's turn 10, and up next, turn 11. This is look at that compression right there. You were talking about that, Kyle.
Yeah, so you come off the banking there and then kind of slam onto the apron, which is where these last couple chicanes are. Then into turn 12, little bit dive there into the final chicane. And Jason Myers trying not to sacrifice the time he had on entry, getting by the number 10 car, which I think is down the order just a smidge.
Yeah.
That is, where is the number 10 on the timing and scoring? There it is, Celine Roland, of all people. There he is.
Yeah, that's interesting to see him that far back. And you can see right there what happened, too. When he lost all that momentum, making that dive move, then the back end snapped out, coming up onto the front straight, and it just cooked him all the way down that front straight. That's the momentum that everybody's got to really be thinking about here. And you can make an aggressive move into the turn, but sometimes the old adage, slow in, fast out, fast in, slow out. And that's exactly what happened to him.
Celine Roland, we've seen in the Global MX-5 Cup Series a handful of years. Right now has got 9 laps in the session, but no times on the board just yet. You have to have a clean lap around Homestead-Miami Speedway. You can't drop tires off the course. That will invalidate your lap time. So you have to keep the car on the road to get a lap, and Celine has only 4 minutes left to get a time in the books here.
And Burkhardt still up front by that same margin, 0.33 of a second. That's a huge margin in this category. Forster, Brock, Rice-Budo, Boley, they're all really, really close. But right now, nobody has a handle on just how Burkhardt is finding his speed.
And will they be able to keep up with him once the race starts? All by yourself is one thing, but now we got the draft behind you here. Come race time, that'll be a challenge to outrun. Even 0.3 of a second is easily made up. One big jump on the timing and scoring. Noah Harmon in the 25 car up to a 1:45.256. That jumps him up to position number 6.
Yeah, nice lap there, a 1:45, as you said. Charles Boley still hanging on to that 5th spot. Love this shot right here. It really kind of gives you a feel of how this track works, and it's really interesting. Turn 3, 4, 5, that complex that they're coming out of now on this long run. You actually don't use as much of the track as you would think up in turn 3, because if you use the full track, you're just wasting time driving way too long a line. You keep it tight a little bit to get set up, exit out of 3, right there, beautiful. Now you've got the right line through 4, and just go to the throttle early. It's one of the interesting things about Spec Miata, Kyle, that I've heard, and you've called a lot of these races too, is Spec Miata is one of the few classes where you're oftentimes fully committed to throttle before you get to the apex.
You just have to roll momentum. These are momentum cars, and I think a lot of people are mistaken that higher power cars are not momentum cars, Greg, but this is why this car here in iRacing was the rookie car for the longest time. It was the first car you had exposure to when joining the iRacing simulation, and it teaches you the basics of driving. It teaches you rolling speed through corners, and it teaches you trail braking and getting on power, and one of my favorite things, it's got 3 pedals in the pedal box and a 6-speed H-pattern gearbox, which I think the fun of that, even in a sim environment, cannot be overstated.
Oh, absolutely. being able to master what I call the racing ballet with all that footwork, matching the handwork, and being able to do it smoothly. We hop on board with Court Schmidt, who of course happens to be the owner of Full Send Sims. Nice to have him racing out there. He was 12th in the practice session, still up in the top 15. He has a lot of extensive background in military simulation and participates in real world racing as well. And these sims, custom built turnkey racing sims, and just awesome to have him decide, let's have a series here. And he's got some really, really good support in some associate sponsors, 3P Logistics and Final Turn Motorsports. We'll talk a little bit more about them as we are getting near the end of this quali session. 1 minute to go.
One of the unique things Court had the idea for was to treat these as a Spec Miata series, and the goal was to make these cars drive like the second generation cars that you see in Spec Miata. So all these cars are running a customized fixed setup to make them drive like the prior generation Miata. So that means that they might act a little bit more nimble. This NC generation car gains some weight from the previous generation and doesn't quite drive the same, but they've managed to kind of reverse engineer it and make it do the things that the older Miata did, and it looks like a lot of fun to drive.
Boy, it absolutely does. I mean, you know, using all 3 points on the axis, aren't you? Pitch, roll, yaw, very much alive in these cars. And that's what makes it so fun. You really feel everything out there at this point. We're down into our final 10 seconds of this session, and Burkhardt, nobody's been able to get close to his time, but it's very, very tight. Only 78 one-thousandths of a second between Beans Forrester and Skip Brock. In second and third, we'll keep an eye just in case somebody throws in something brilliant. But nope, that's how it ends up. And I want to remind everybody, one of the cool things about this series, the Full Send Sim series, is they will be conducting driver schools every once in a while, one-on-one instruction. So if you're struggling a little bit in these cars, you've got an opportunity to do a driving school, maybe improve things just a bit.
Yeah, really neat idea. And I love Full Send Sims and their entire, you kind of touched on them, Greg, the whole idea of building turnkey simulators, making things easy. Here's how I know that, because I'm building a sim right now, and it is not straightforward. I opened up the box for everything last night, and it got really overwhelmed with all the parts and pieces. I was an engineering major in college, so to be able to just buy one and have one all set up for me would be really, really cool. So neat stuff. We'll talk more about the other partners and people that make this happen in a little while, but cars are getting set, and they'll have one pace lap behind the safety car before we turn them loose for 25 minutes.
2 heats, 25 minutes each, and there we go. See the flagman? As we said, one pace lap behind the pace car, then we go racing, and Burkhardt will be leading away from the front. I don't see, as Beans Forrester, his car is there, so hopefully he'll be able to make the start. Everybody's gridding up at this stage. And just to let everybody know, top 3 positions at the end of each season, there's going to be 3 seasons in each year. They'll all get trophies. P1 will receive a direct drive wheelbase, which is a nice piece of sim hardware. P2 will receive a set of load cell pedals. And P3, there's a prize set up for P3, just hasn't been announced yet. Will probably be mid-season here, so in just about a month or so. But it looks like we are pretty much ready to go here.
Yeah, just waiting on, I think, a couple more cars to grid. We have about 10 seconds left for them to get on the grid before we'll have that pace lap. We'll roll through the starting lineup and everything before we turn them loose. And we love that generic pace car out front, the 2023 make model. And it's based off of nothing to avoid the licensing complications there. But there it is. It's rolling. And let's go through the starting lineup here, Greg, kicking things off with row number 1.
All right. Morgan Burkhardt will be joined in the number 40 by the number 23 of Beans Forrester. Row 2.
Skip Brock Jr. in the number 32. He starts alongside Nicholas Riciputo in the number 11.
Row 3, it'll be the number 26 of Charles Boley over the number 25. That great late session run of Noah Harmon.
Row 4, Caleb Pocock in the number 6. Conrad Zazik in the number 47 starts in 8th.
Starting in the 9th spot in row 5, 72, Jordan Butler, joined there by the number 80 of Andrew Wozencroft.
Starting in row number 6, Jeremy Fletcher in the number 69. Jason Myers in the 88 rolls off 12th.
Starting in the 13th spot, the number 21 of Brian Horowitz, joined in that 7th row by the number 14 or the number 50 of Stephen Blethen.
And in 15th place, it's Court Schmidt's number 172. That's the blue car on screen. Gianni Morrow in the number 31 starts 16th.
And moving up to the next row, starting in the 17th spot, it's the 19 of Max Mankin, and David Carrillo starts in the number 95.
19th place, it's Thess Spolman in the number 42 and Enrique Tomeo in the number 14 in 20th.
And going back to the 21st spot, the number 931 is Levi Canup. He'll be joined by Alfredo Zidane in the number 16.
Behind them in 23rd, it's Max Schweid in the number 98 and Luis Villares in the number 08. He rolls off 24th.
Starting in the 25th spot, the 89 of Jim Friedhofer. He'll be joined by the 27 of Carlos Mendana.
And behind them in 27th, it's Michael Brophy in the number 314, and Dave Brown in the 24 starts 28th.
Starting 29th, the 17 of Steven Cantarze, and the number 28 of Ricardo Ray.
And the last driver in the field here didn't get a qualifying lap. That's Celine Roland, starting from the very tail of the field in the first round of the Full Send Sims Spec Miata Series. Greg, that's the whole grid as the field heads down towards turns 11 and 12.
And once again, this time we will be going green. And this is the last chance to get a look at this section of the track, the very tricky turn 11. This next turn that we are talking about, turn 12, very, very tight. You enter it with a huge amount of speed. And those tire bundles, Kyle, you were telling me off mic, those things are hard as Burkhardt clouts it as he picks up the throttle. Green flag is in the air. Watch for it. Getting ready to get going. 25 minutes of racing here in race number 1. We're green! And Burkhardt leads away. And this is where you were talking about drafting is going to come into play immediately. Burkhardt has the inside, but it looks like Skip Brock down to the inside. It is going to get underneath maybe Beans Foster. It's going to be a matter of breaking down into turn 2. Looks like Forster was able to slot into third, but Brock is through.
One car off in the way background, but everyone else gets through cleanly. Burkhardt leads the way through turn 4. Skip Brock Jr., then Beans Forster. Big spin behind it, a tangle. It's Blethen in the 50, I think, is one of the 3 cars involved there.
Yeah, the number 31 involved as well. So that was Gianna Murrow. So yeah, right off the start, we've got some action on track, as I guess you'd expect with a 31 car Spec Miata field on a 2.21 mile track. But everything's going to be settling in right now, so let's see what's happening as we look up the field just a little bit. Back in the order, some good battling going on. That's Andrew Wozencroft in the 9th spot.
He's chasing Horowitz in the 21, who's all over the tailpipes of Jason Myers, running down to the hairpin now. Nice line of stern here, pretty patient by Horowitz, and you see Wozencroft close in. A little awkward there, and here comes the 72 of Butler up the inside.
Yeah, I think he had a little bit of target fixation and just got in a little bit hot, floated wide. And in this category, you're going to have a stream of cars going down underneath you here. So we take a look there at the 72 of Jordan Butler making his way up through the field.
Here's Rice Sputo in the number 11 and Charles Boley. This is for 4th. Bouncing over the curbs here in this final chicane sector here. And this is threading the needle through these chicanes and tire bundles. And behind them, a slip and a slide, and the 88 is out of control.
Oh, big lurid slide. Saved it, Jason Myers did. But he's going to lose an awful lot of ground. And you know that incident we saw as we watched this again, did a nice job of avoiding that tire bundle.
A autocross move there to get spun back around.
Yeah, he was rallying that baby through the gravel. But that incident about a lap and a half back has allowed this top 6 to really open it up a bit as the 172 of Cord Schmidt. He had just a little bit of a touch there, was able to hang on to it as he and the number 16 are having one serious scrap out there.
And one car sneaks up the inside. I think that is the 98 that's alongside him? Indeed it is. Max Schweid in the 98 car up the inside, kind of being a bit of a hassle. And lots of side-by-side around the racetrack now as the battles begin to kick off here a couple minutes in.
Ooh, late move down to the inside by the 931. Didn't quite get that done, but it was a nice attempt by Levi Canup, but couldn't quite get the move made. Looking at Jeremy Flechter right now, sitting 11th, trying to get into the top 10.
And he's going to have to knock Cord Schmidt out of that spot for now as they head down into the hairpin. Everybody behaving down here so far. We had a bunch of dramas at 3 and 4, the switchback, but 11 has been pretty calm, cool, and collected so far.
Yeah, I think everybody really respects that corner, obviously. And there is a look at Cord Schmidt now up into the top 10, and a little bit of breathing room right now back to the 60-mile deflector. Meanwhile, up front, Burkhardt actually starting to open that margin up a bit, isn't he?
He is, and wow, Forster slammed the return to the banking there, and that can damage your car, Greg. If you kind of square that up too much, you have to kind of blend and go right sides then left sides up onto the banking. You can really damage the front valence of this Miata if you drive up onto the banking too hard. But Forster trying to catch Skip Brock Jr. and Burkhardt right now.
Yeah, he's literally throwing everything at it. Got a pretty good run here on the back of Skip Brock, but nowhere to go with it at this stage. Into that very tricky turn 3, 4, and now this little kink to the left, 5. You're already absolutely flat chat. Here, let's see if he's able to do anything down into the hard braking of 6.
Brock is not defending at all down here into 6. Forster will follow him in.
All right, now maybe what Forster's thinking is, I don't want to lose any momentum because a great overtaking area is coming up here in turn 8. And we'll see whether he's going to do anything, and at this point whether Skip Brock's going to defend a bit, and he is driving right down the middle of the track, giving right now Forster not a lot of ground to be able to do anything. Forster decides to wait.
Yeah, he's going to wait for a better opportunity, and again, the hairpin is such a tight corner. If you can find an example of a spot where you can make a driver make a mistake, I'd look squarely at those last couple chicanes. Maybe dive in underneath Skip Brock Jr., force him to overdrive, and then cross him over at corner exit. Turn 11, that leaves you the opportunity to get crossed over if you drive too hard and off into the corner trying to gain an advantage.
There's that compression, and you can see the speed you're carrying, and now it's easy to get 12 wrong, overshoot the exit a little bit, and then you're just crawling through 13 and 14, and you've got to get through 14 really well because you've got to roll every bit of speed you can up onto the banking and keep some speed. See what happened here, the number 27.
Carlos Mendana in the 27, and he might have had some help here potentially. The 314 to the inside, and got kind of ruffled up there. Oh man, got hit hard in the left rear.
Hard, yeah. Caught a little air and then got slammed for the work here. And a bit of a moment here. That is the number 27 of Carlos Mendana, as you talked about. So, boy, he's got damage to the back of that car, and I don't think it's handling particularly well.
I was going to say, those were live shots as we came back from the replay. Yeah. He was still spinning around, so he will dive down the pit lane and try to get some repairs done to that car as it's looking pretty stricken. Here's a battle. Jordan Butler's number 72, Horowitz and Wozencroft in behind. This is heading down to 6.
This is in that 7th spot, and this is where that gap exists after that early incident. And so what they really need to be doing here, if they want to move up, but up front of them, a good battle there. It looked like Noah Harmon was trying to get underneath Charles Boley here. Looked inside, looked outside, Boley having none of it. But those guys behind that group of Butler, Horowitz, Wozencroft, they really need to be working together a little bit to try and close up just a bit here. There's still 18 and a half minutes left in this race.
I love using a term from Darrell Waltrip, co-opetition. In a car like this, you have to work together, but you're racing the whole time. But nose to tail, bump drafting each other. This is a track where you can really take advantage of some teamwork as Forster and Brock Jr. go back at it for second place. Brock Jr. is really leaning on the car. You see it leaning over, and these Miatas are known for having soft, squishy suspension, and they're going to need it there, climbing back up onto the banking.
Boy, they really do slam into that banking, and all of that battling that they're doing, every time Brock defends a little bit, it slows them both down just a smidge. And Morgan Burkhardt is just clicking off laps. His best lap, a 1:43.9, and is just continuing to just open the margin up almost 1.8 seconds right now.
Oh, Brock Jr. defensive off into turn 3. And a little off kilter there, had too much rotation, I think, but actually managed to get the power back down pretty well. And behind them, I think they've lost, well, that's Harmon and Boley. That 3-car group has become 4. Court Schmidt has latched himself on as the caboose in this party.
Yeah, and they've actually made up some ground under the back of Harmon and Boley because of the fact those guys are battling it up. Ooh, way wide there. That's really going to hurt.
That's for second. Skip Brock Jr. and Forster. Forster had a great run on Brock Jr., drove too hard off into 6, and gave it up on corner exit.
And look who's coming now because of the battling these guys are doing. Risaputo, the number 11, is closing it up. Hop on board with him, and you can see he's just throwing down really nice, consistent laps, and it's paying off right now.
And he's in drafting distance now. About 7/10 back is really where the slipstream gets strong in these cars. But I really don't think it's that useful in the infield sections here. Even though there's some relatively long straightaways, this car doesn't draft quite as well as the 4th generation Miata. That's the ND generation. As we got a side-by-side battle, Harmon and Boley off into 11.
And that is Harmon getting underneath Boley, picking up that 5th spot. He has been after him for the entirety of this race and gets it done. And you can see the way he set up perfectly for 12th and got him through 13 and 14. And look at the margin he made up. That's a good 3 car lengths. That's just a beautiful job by Noah Harmon.
Yeah, fantastic work. And that's, I think, turn 11, that's a critical place. If you can make that pass on the back straightaway, then distance yourself with a couple clean chicanes. You're not going to get run back down by the time you get to turn 1 and 2, and you'll be able to protect that spot.
And the key there, isn't it, Kyle, is, for Noah, he got that move done, but then he also, wow, that was really shortcutting the track here. But Noah was able to get the move done and still not overshoot and make it work, as we're watching Jeremy Flechter having himself a wild ride.
Yeah,
and what a save.
Let's go back and look at this. This all started on the front straightaway. They were running each other off into the dirt.
Yeah, it was almost down in the old pit lane there. And right here was the big overshoot, but they gathered it up. As our friend Tom McGorman would say, he just turned into the yaw.
Oh, trouble for Wozencroft. Sorry, Greg. The 80 cars turned around. He was inside the top 10. And was there some contact maybe that led to this, or was it self-inflicted? Here's a look.
Watch him here. Looks good there. Oh, I think he went around by his own.
Might have caught the grass on corner exit, I think. Watch the left rear tire here. Right here.
Yep, exactly right.
And did Court Schmidt get a piece of it?
Yeah, if he did, it was it may have been a kiss, but it wasn't very passionate.
Well, looks all right to me. Well, there he is.
There he is. All
Got
right.
some internet connectivity issues for Court tonight, but otherwise, nose on that car looks squeaky clean, so he'll be able to continue. And look who's back. Boley not quite done with Noah Harmon.
Oh, he is coming back after him. And you see that fairly often. Somebody makes a pass. It's oftentimes easier to follow than lead. You can reference the guy in front, figure out where his weak points are. And now Boley might just be returning the favor to Noah Harmon at this stage. Behind them is the 72 of Butler, then Horowitz, Court Schmidt at 9th, and Max Schweid, even with that off, was able to get back and still sits in 10th.
He's got Fletcher right back to his rear view here, so this is a battle for P10 now as they head off into turn number 1. Fletcher, 11th.
Both of these guys have had interesting rides during the race. Fletcher way down to the inside and manages to keep it from floating out too wide, so he didn't lose all of his drive out of 4 through 5 here. So he's still relatively close.
This car has seen better days with the bodywork. It's going to need some replacement panels after the night. That Spolman's gone around. He's way off course. I think this is down at turn 1. And wow. Whew. Back a little further and see how this started. Here's side by side with Roland in the 10, who's a lap down.
Yeah, he just got in too. Oh, he hit a little tap.
Yeah, I think he might have kind of crowded Roland there. Roland had to make a left at some point, and then Spolman went for a wild ride through the gravel trap and into the grass. He's returned on track now in 20th.
I have been out there in that part of the track before, and you are always very grateful. There's lots of runoff in 1 and 2.
27 car. Carlos Mendenas back on track right ahead of this battle for second. Skip Brock Jr.'s got his hands full with Beans Forster right now.
Yeah, and look at this. I think Rasputo is going to have a chance here. He's got a really nice draft, looking to get down to the inside of Forster. He's there, tucked up behind Skip Brock. He's going to follow him through, but Brock leads him through, then shallows up. And look at this move, maybe, by Rasputo around, potentially around the outside. Couldn't get it done. Brock and Forster side by side, and really Rasputo is just trying to figure out, who do I follow?
This is a fantastic battle here, and I think you just got to pick a different lane, right? He tried one, he's going to have to try the other now, but Brock Jr. is getting very defensive. They have lost 5 seconds to Burkhardt, so he's gone. The focus now is getting to second place.
Yeah, and the only other guy I see into the 143s with Burkhardt is Beans Forster, and he actually was 2 100ths slower than the best lap of Burkhardt. So Forster showing a lot of speed, But Skip Brock Jr. is putting on a masterclass in defense here. But how long will it last? Here we go. Forster gets a little bit of an overlap down to the inside. Will Brock try and go around the outside and do the over-under move? Well, I think he was thinking about it, but what a move by Forster. The way he exited was right where Brock wanted to go.
It looks like he covered that. He knew that the 32 would try the crossover, and he managed to slide up and slow down just enough to cover the crossover. And Rice-Pudo's right behind, still wants to get into this, but here comes a 32 to the inside at 11. This is a high-speed corner, and they're going to go side by side through it again.
Wow, he just committed straight line to the apex and then got the car woe down enough that he didn't massively overshoot. And look at Rice-Pudo now. He's trying to straighten out the last couple of corners here through 13 and 14 to get the run, and he did it. He is up and alongside and past now Forster, and he's got to run. He drove that chicane absolutely perfectly. He's looking down to the inside of Brock. Can he make it work? He's there, and now lap traffic. Brock just comes across. There's a touch.
Oh, they both keep it straight off course, but tried to use the lap traffic as a pick. The 32 turned across the nose, and they managed to come out the other side, but Forster goes through to second. Rice-Pudo to third, and Skip Brock Jr. falls to P4.
Yeah, it was Dave Brown, and and then he gets hit behind by somebody else as well. So Dave Brown has been absolutely overwhelmed here by cars, and obviously he wasn't really sure who was coming up behind him. So this battle is rejoined, but guess what? All of that, Morgan Burkhart's now up by almost 8 seconds. He is just flying right now. But this battle is absolutely phenomenal that we've been watching for second, third, and fourth. And I'm kind of wondering, it's still a long ways back to Jordan Butler at fifth. So these three are battling for the final 2 spots on the podium.
Oh, there's some trouble for Noah Harmon in the 25. We picked up the tail end of an incident at turn 1, and that car is absolutely destroyed.
Yeah, he is in rough shape right now. See if we can spot what happened.
Oh, this is a long time ago. I thought this was just a lap ago. Here it is. This is entering turn 11 on the previous lap.
Hugely quick section of track.
I saw Boley off course too. Okay, so he has a disconnection problem there for a moment. Back on the racetrack and then into the outside wall, then collects Boley with it.
That was it. Boy, those two are having such a good scrap for that 5th and 6th spot. But all done as we're into our final 9 minutes here of race number 1. We take a look and hop on board with Caleb Pocock as he sits right now in the 10th spot in that number 6 with everything that's been unfolding, and not far behind Conrad Krajcik.
47, big slide off turn 13, and then back onto the front straight, goes massively defensive here. Oh, he might have a slowdown, Greg. I think he cut one of the corners and has to give up time, and that will give 10th place to Pocock. Maybe actually make that 9th.
And they don't mess about with the officiating here, that's for sure. Rightfully so.
It's in the world where everything is electronic, you have the ability to put electronic markers everywhere. And we were joking in iRacing, they just added an all-electric car, the Porsche Mission 22, or Mission R, I think they called it Mission R. And everyone was joking that it's actually powered by real electricity in the simulated car because it's in iRacing.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? That ability to make automatic slowdowns and everything, that has been floated for Formula One. Can you believe that? I mean, the real series. I can't believe that they're even discussing that. But anyway, back to this great racing. And right now, Skip Brock, who may have just tortured those tires, is laid back a little bit. Maybe because we talked about how hot this track is. That temp is higher yet than it was. So Brock may be just saying, I need to ease off a bit, just follow these guys. So I've got something left at the end.
How do you like your slick tires cooked, Greg? Medium rare? Because I think we're beyond that. 127 degrees.
Yeah, I know. I think these tires are now approaching well done.
Yes, indeed. 126. Look at this three-way battle for second. Still on, and it's not over. Forster's only got a couple tenths of a second.
Yeah, incredibly close.
Oh, lap traffic on the pit outline there. That was tight.
So close. Yeah, very, very fortunate for Forster that he didn't get tanked there. And everybody else doing the adjustment nicely. Rice-Pudo really has driven a great race, hasn't he? He didn't go too early drafted up, got these guys, went after them. So we're back in the battle now for 15th, Mike Brophy. Oh, there's that straight line to the apex.
Spolman in the 42 is the one battling with him right now for 15th place. I think Luis Millar is right ahead of him at the 08. I think that's also for position. Big understeer here for Spolman.
Boy, look at that big wrinkle on the back of the 314 of Brophy. He's had a wrinkle or two and some contact with some people, but let's see what happens. Is he going to be able to survive the overlap here? Is Spolman taking a run down to the inside, side by side through one. A little bit more difficult to do down here in 2. And rolling a lot of speed around the outside. Brophy, that was gorgeous.
They almost touched mirrors on the entrance to turn 1, but not quite. That was very close racing there. Good battles around the racetrack. These are your best. The one for second and the one for 15th are the best battles on the racetrack. We'll take you anywhere else we see one. 5 minutes and 45 seconds remaining. And then we do it all over again, Greg, in race number 2.
Absolutely. I love the reset concept, and let's get after it. And for Luis Millares in that 08 up in 14th in front of these two guys, I got a feeling he's not paying attention to the mirrors, because if he was, he'd be so enthralled in what was happening behind him, he'd throw it off the track. There it is, looking back at it.
It's like
that's Brophy and Spolman.
Brophy has managed to dispatch Spolman just a little bit, and contact.
Oh, wow, that's the old bump and run.
I'll say. Oh, more contact.
Yeah, I think Millares was saying, oh yeah? And now there's more contact there. That got Spolman, Millares, and Brophy all involved there. A little bit of pinballing.
Yeah, that'll be almost terminal damage for the 314. That is a huge impact. And one of the characteristics of this NC Generation MX-5 here at iRacing is the ABS. This is not motorsport ABS. This is road ABS. And when you get into panic mode and you need more pedal, you don't have any more pedal. So that's one of those scenarios where you're just on the brakes and there's nothing much you can do if you've missed your braking point.
It sounds like it really sets up like it does when you exceed the ABS capability and the pedal just sort of goes numb and locks up.
Very much so, yeah. There's not a lot of feel to it once you get into ABS, kind of past the point where it's effective. And a lot of times you'll actually find that threshold braking before the ABS is actually the most efficient way to stop these cars. Unlike perhaps a GT3 or GT4 car with motorsport-specific ABS that's tuned for that particular purpose, especially the slick tires on stock road car electronics. That confuses all sorts of systems, traction control and ABS and the sort.
I would think, yeah. I mean, the loads that the slick can generate is pretty foreign to the electronics, I'm sure, in that scenario here. Having this battle for 9th right now, Max Schweid. Boy, he has been in the wars today and still right in the fight.
Got Caleb Pocock right ahead of him. Big understeer, though, for the 6. He's off course. Here comes Max to the inside.
And right behind Max is Konrad Krejcik, so he is not out of this by any means. Trying to watch here just at the back of that group of the top 10. And that car behind them, I think, is actually down a lap at this stage. So those 3, Schweid, Pocock, and Krejcik, having a really, really nice run here.
Yeah, the car behind is the 24. It's Dave Brown, who's off course again. He's 2 laps down. And is having
really.
This is a track that's tough, Greg, right? You got a lot of high-speed corners that if you miss the entry, you get a right rear tire in the grass, it's game over. It's not a forgiving course. We head to Sebring next week. Most of that is concrete and asphalt, so you might have a better time there than a track like this that has so much in the way of grass and big curbing that can catch you out. Here's Pocock down the inside defending from the 98, and Krejcik right behind to the inside, banging doors off turn 6.
Yeah, nice move by Krejcik. It looks like he's through, but that's the interesting thing here with this turn 7. It's just, you're just on the throttle all the way. Once you exit 6, even at the apex of 6, so you can run side by side in these cars, and that's exactly what they do. Man, that was close. I thought there was going to be a tap.
I think they did touch just a little bit, but it wasn't enough to send the 6 car around.
Yeah, it just grazed him.
Just grazed him. And here's the 47 of Krejcik, and I think the 98 has got either some damage or missed a shift or something, because going to fall back in line behind the 47 this time through.
Well, he definitely has some damage, but up until that moment, it didn't seem to be affecting him. So I think your missed shift might be spot on here.
Where is the leader? Is heading down towards turn 6. Next time by, Greg, we should be getting the white flag lap.
Yeah, a minute and a half left in this one. It has flown by. And the nice thing with Burkhardt now, up by 8.5 or almost 9 seconds, is he does not have to be too aggressive in traffic. He can take his time, work his way through. But for the others, not such an easy thing here. It's Forster still sits second, but less than a half a second behind him is Brock, who's come back around Nicholas Resputo. And those two are at very close quarters.
Max Schweid down pit lane, I think, was serving a penalty of some sort, maybe a contacts penalty. But he is back on the road again. The 24 again missing that turn 1 turn-in. Has just been a troublesome corner tonight. Going back to second place, as you mentioned, 2.5 tenths of a second between Forster and Skip Brock Jr.
And I think Brock, I really think he may have overcooked those tires a little bit and backed off, because he's gone by Resputo and has opened up. He and Forster have opened up a margin to Resputo. And Brock is close enough. He might be able to figure something out here.
Really nice run through turn 12. He got a little shallower than Forster did. Big slam up onto the banking. He had to lift there to not hit the wall, and that's going to cost him some time. White flag lap for Morgan Burkhardt.
He has taken that white flag. Here comes this battle. And look what that did. It has brought Resputo right back into it. 3 cars battling for the last 2 spots on the podium. And a big lunge down to the inside by Brock. Realized that wasn't on into that tricky turn 2. And that was the classic fast in, slow out. He got way pinched to the inside. And that allowed Forster, well, it should have allowed Forster to open up a margin, but then Forster overshot and ran a little offline as he got into turn 3. So they're still covered by the proverbial blanket. 2
car lengths between Brock Jr. and Forster. And Forster's going to have to get real defensive and make that MX-5 a lot wider than it is, because that 23 will be coming. It's going to be probably the last couple corners, the final 2 chicanes. He's going to try to cross him over, unless he can get alongside him on the backstretch, Greg, but that's going to take a Herculean effort down here at turn number 8.
Well, I'll tell you what, Forster actually missed the apex down there in 6. And you can see that Brock got right onto that apex curbing, straightened that out a little bit, but it wasn't enough. But you can see Forster a little bit defensive, and is that going to allow Brock to roll a little bit better speed? But Forster using all of that curb on the exit and got a nice run. Man, he drove that exit absolutely superbly, and now it's actually Resputo. Is he close enough to get any kind of a toe down into 10, 11, and 12? Doesn't look like it, as Burkhardt, all he's got to do is hit his marks and bring it home.
He's done a fantastic job, Greg, and from flag to flag, he's led 15 laps. He's going to pick this one up.
Well, in this kind of a battle with 31 cars, as the checker flies, Morgan Burkhardt will go down as the first winner in the FSS Esports iRacing Series Spec Miata Season 1. Here comes that battle for second, and Forster hangs on over Brock with Resputo in the 4th spot. And rounding out your top 5 is going to be Jordan Butler. What a battle those guys put on. Here comes Brian Horowitz, 6th, and I'll tell you what, Court Schmidt, nice job from where he qualified up into 7th.
15th to 7th, great run there for Court. And Krejcik started 8th, finished 8th after all that fighting and battle, and he will finish where he started. That'll be a frustrating way to end, Greg, but at least it's not going backwards.
Well, exactly. But I would think he'll look at that and go, after everything that unfolded, how did I not move position at all? Jason Myers comes home in the, Caleb Pocock comes home 9th, and rounding out your top 10 is Jason Myers.
All right, because this is using the heat function here in iRacing, we're only going to get a moment to look at the race results, so let's do that quickly. Here's a look through the entire order. Morgan Burkhardt, Beans Forster, Skip Brock Jr., Nicholas Resputo, and Jordan Butler, your top 5. We already covered the top 10 here, Greg. Here's 11 through 20.
Yeah, Wozencroft, Freidhofer, Schweid, a busy race, ended up 13th, Smolman 14th, Noah Harmon, damage and all. He and Boley still 15th and 16th. Polaris, Morrow, Brophy with talk about damage, and then Stephen Blethen completing the top 20, and then Fletcher, Mandana, Carrillo rounding things out here. But I'll tell you what, 10 seconds by the time we got done with it for Morgan Burkhardt over the field. Man, that was taking him out to the woodshed, man. That was an amazing drive.
He absolutely crushed him. Now he's going to get a chance to do the same thing over again, Greg, but it's always a little easier the first time. Now everyone kind of knows his tricks. They know right out of the gate they cannot let him get away. So will they work together, perhaps, the drivers that were in the top 5, and try to run by him the first few laps and then fight amongst themselves later?
That's a good point. 31 cars, took the green. And when you're up front, that gives you such an advantage. If you're back even second, third, fourth, and somebody gets a run, well, we saw what can happen, and he drove it beautifully. I do want to say a big thanks to Frank Rodriguez, who is the owner of 3P Logistics, and it's a company that provides full logistical support for you, your family, and your race car. They'll take care of booking flights, rental cars, hotels, group gatherings, all while you're away from home. And they also offer a race car storage, maintenance, repair, and transportation. And also Rob Greenwood, who's the owner of Final Turn Motorsports, one of our associate sponsors. Full service prep shop along with trackside support. They do dyno tuning. They're also a Miata transmission rebuilder and builder. And they do full-on driver development from licensing to pro-level racing. And just absolutely wonderful to have those two companies, 3P Logistics and Final Turn Motorsports, helping support Full Send Sims in this inaugural season of the FSS Esports iRacing Series, and this first race of the 2023 Season 1 of 3 we anticipate for Spec Miata. But guess what? It's time for us to start setting up for race 2.
Yeah, about 3 minutes left here in a pre-race warm-up. We'll head back down to the racetrack for a brief moment. Greg, race 1 was great. It was a great battle for second, but all those drivers know that they'd rather be battling for first. So maybe teaming up on Morgan Burkhardt. But what about some of those midfield battles and some of the drivers that struggled at the start of the race, just kind of learning the track? They've kind of got some laps under their belt now, so I think we should expect this race to be a lot closer and up front, maybe a lot more aggressive.
Yeah, I think so too. And, that sort of begs the question. One, all right, we need to be clean. We don't want to let Burkhardt get away. We want to be nice and clean. But on the other end, as you said, now people are more comfortable with the track. Sometimes, comfort builds confidence. Confidence builds speed. But sometimes when you're a little too comfortable, then you get overly aggressive, and that's when contact can happen. So this is where we're really going to see, the drivers, I think, Kyle, that are able to really get right to the edge of the envelope without exceeding it and creating issues for either themselves or others. This is going to be interesting, really interesting to watch this play out.
Certainly. Here's Charles Boley on pit lane. Has not gone on track just yet here in this session. Got caught up in an incident that wasn't of his own doing. We saw a couple of those. And for a guy like Charles, I think he'll be happy to get back on course and get another go at this here.
Absolutely. And I mean, he was, battling for, fifth, sixth until things went wrong for him. So we know he's got speed. There's no question about that. And Seth Spolman, another of the guys that was in a really good battle until it all went south, and got involved as well. But that's the nature of this racing. I mean, Spec Miata, we talk about it. It's all about carrying momentum, but you also have to pounce. You've got to be decisive and try your moves. And as you said, sometimes you need a little bit of that, what was the word? Co-opetition?
Yes.
And if somebody decides that they're not going to do that for you, that's when you can start seeing things go adrift.
Craig Ginsburg is in the house. He was telling us that he thinks Spolman is actually racing from Korea this evening. So that'd be really neat if that was the case.
Wow, very, very cool. Very cool. Ginsburg, of course, announced last weekend at the SCCA Hoosier Super Tour event at Sebring. So he and Brian doing a nice job there. So
yeah, really neat
nice
to see the SCCA streaming too, Greg. This season, all the Super Tour rounds are going to be live this year, and they got a great partnership, and honestly, very impressive streaming. Kind of a new thing for them to do year-round, and already kicking off great at Sebring last time out. So I wish the best for them. It should be fun to watch all year. Yeah,
it's a well-subscribed event. And speaking of Spec Miata, absolutely, Danny Stain in the race after a problematic qualifying went from 24th to 4th.
Wow.
So he just proved you can do it even in a spec car. So it was pretty amazing to watch here. As we are set now, this is our first round, but our second race of round 1 about to come up here at Homestead-Miami Speedway. There's a look at the layout of the track. You can see it's got some serious twisty bits, but it's got some of those really, really crucial braking zones, and then the acceleration or traction events. And in these cars, better to do it through momentum than over slow, because they're not going to accelerate as much as you might like. This is a really tricky 2.21 mile track, Kyle.
It's a fun track, though, Greg. It's got a good combination of flow as well as some point-and-shoot corners. And I think the flowy corners in particular, we talked already about turn 11, flinging the car off the back straightaway into that final kind of infield sector that has a couple chicanes. I love this Roval configuration of Homestead-Miami Speedway. And honestly, Greg, if I was in charge of running any North American road racing series, I'd be putting it here. I love this track. Probably more than makes sense, if I'm being honest, but it's a cool little place.
Well, it is. It's challenging. You know, I actually had the honor of calling in 1998 a round of the World FIA GT Championship back then, with those amazing Mercedes and the Porsche GT1s and the like. And you know, I was thinking, all right, this Roval's going to be a little bit too snug for them. No, they put on an absolutely incredible show, because the track's fairly wide. And, you know, with the downforce and the like, they were able to make it work. So this track, is legit, to be sure. And I like it, too. I've actually driven it in a ride and drive day in a few Porsches. And, man, it was mega fun. There's no question. It's a good place. But when you come out of turn 8, 9, and you come out of 14 and 15, that wall is very intimidating.
Yeah, and especially the transition back up onto the oval section. And you can actually see here in iRacing, of course, iRacing simulates all sorts of things, including the track rubbering, and you can see how dark the racing line is here. It's even easier to see from the blimp camera. Top left of your screen, under the ticker header there, look how dark the racing line is there from all the rubber and all the load scrubbing the rubber off the slick tires here.
Right, and you know what? That's the difference between 9 and 14, 15 is 9. When you come out of 8, that's a much more gentle transition up. When you come out of 14, 15 on a map looks like, all right, that shouldn't be that much, that abrupt. But the thing is, you float out so wide out of 14, you're onto that banking before you really even get to 15. And that's where these cars take a pounding, don't they?
Certainly. Cars are on track, pacing now. Because it's heat number 2, we've got to use the ticker on the left to show you the starting lineup. There it is, Morgan Burkhardt, Forster, Brock, Rasputo, Butler picking up where they left off, Greg. We're starting as we finished here for race number 2.
And everybody's on a mission here, and that is don't let Morgan Burkhardt in that red number 40 get the jump or get away. If they can get up and underneath him, great. That's what they want to do, get him back in the pack, try and handle him a little bit. But if he gets away, Forster, Brock, Rasputo, Butler, those guys, they all have to be very, very cognizant of let's not race each other side by side early. Let's get line astern, stay with him. That's huge.
I think the key is just to bury him in traffic, right? If you can swarm him on the opening lap and make him have to pass people, he's not going to be able to drive away. You give Morgan Burkhardt clear racetrack, he's going to outdrive you. He's just so good here tonight, at least with this particular car and track combination. So he's going to be tough to beat, I think, if you can get him behind you on this opening lap just by being aggressive and maybe spooking him a little bit, Greg, then you might be able to keep Morgan behind you for the full race.
I think, that's certainly the best solution here. No question about it. So if not, just try and stay with him and try and hustle him into some sort of mistake. But he doesn't seem particularly mistake prone, does he?
No, it's certainly not. And again, we've seen him over the grid life side of things. We've seen him on the SCCA side of things here in iRacing. Very talented driver in a variety of equipment, especially in GT4s in particular. He's been really stout at that, and TCR equipment, so he knows how to handle cars that are 4 or 5 times the power of this NC Generation MX-5, so I know that he is capable of winning 2 for 2 tonight. We'll see how he does as the field weaves their way through the last couple of corners. The pace car is going to peel off to driver's left right here, and Greg, they're in your hands here as they come up out of turn 13 up onto the front straightaway here at Homestead-Miami Speedway. Morgan protecting bottom driver's left.
Yeah, trying to make that run as short and straight as he can, but look at that, Forster right up on his outside, waiting for the green flag. We're green, and immediately from the back, I think that's, not sure who that was that popped out, but trying to do exactly what we talked about, swarm and get around Burkhardt, but Burkhardt leads down through 1, but once again, working that outside line, but side by side go Forster and Brock, and that gives Burkhardt that little bit of a leap, and these two guys are still side by side, and look at that, you already see Burkhardt has himself a car length or 2 as they come out of there. These guys gotta not be racing side by side, tuck in, but ooh, I thought we were gonna get through clean. Does he stay off? He does. Oh, yeah, now caught it. Now saves it.
Boy,
I think that
look
was
out.
Brophy.
Woo, boy.
Boy, that was a tank slapper worthy of a short track bike race. That was amazing.
So Morgan
All right,
Burkhardt,
now.
he saw it coming, Greg. He's got that already figured out. He knew what we were going to call, and away he went.
Yep, and what I like here is that Brock and Forster, they went side by side, but finally, Forster just tucked in behind Brock instead of trying to stay with him. And now, whoa, and back, is that Jason Myers?
The 88, yes. He just came from out of nowhere and clobbered Beans Forster. What happened there?
Yeah, I think he got in too hot and just watch it here, or did he get tapped?
Oh, caught the grass,
No.
Greg.
Yep, that's what we talked about. And oh, man, what a hit on Forster.
Yeah, just caught the grass driver's right. He was on the nose of the 21. And right here, watch the right rear tire right before the curbing on the right there.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, and that was a substantial slap right there. But you talked about it, and it's true. I mean, there is gravel around this place, but the edge of the track, except where there's curbing, if you run a little bit, and another, there are incidents unfolding here. But if you find yourself, boy, that was a 3-4 car schmozzle back there. How did they stay? All right, watch it here. Just got loose. Looked like he was good. Oh, got center punched. What a hit.
Oh.
And then the third one, wow, that was the big one.
Yeah, Tomeo right into the mix and had nowhere to go. You're kind of committed. When you come through that chicane, you're slinging through it so quickly that everyone is on the same line, basically, when you come off that corner. And you're already committed to landing in a particular spot on the banking. And if you don't know that there's an incident there, there's just no way you're ever going to miss it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and you know, sometimes you're absolutely blind in terms of sight line. You're right behind somebody. It's just crazy. But here's the interesting thing. I was looking at the opening laps here, and Morgan Burkhardt turned a 1:51.0, Skip Brock a 52.4. I mean, it's a second and a half already, Kyle. Burkhardt is just absolutely putting on a clinic on this track.
Yeah, he's got it in hand right now. 1.3 seconds is clear of the draft as well. So if Skip Brock Jr. and Nicholas Rasputo don't work together, they're not going to catch Morgan Burkhardt unless he makes a very big mistake. Morgan's just got this track and car dialed into his liking, and right now is sprinting away as he did in race 1.
The lines he drives, incredibly precise. Uses every bit of the track, but you just never see him overstep it very much. Gets right up to the wall, exiting 15, but just does it consistently. Absolutely no issues, and just this flowing speed. I mean, that's the best way to put it. He just flows immense speed here.
And using just the right amounts of curbing right to the edge. I mean, do you see how close he was to the grass there without going over? I mean, that couldn't have been an inch. Left side tires up on the tall curb to get rotation. He's got the pitch, roll, and dive really figured out well, and just textbook driving by the number 40. But behind them, Skip Brock Jr. and Nicholas Rasputo back to battling again for second, and Brian Horwitz in the 21, keeping them in the mirror there, in the scope, I'd say.
Yeah, in the realm. And then about the same distance that Horowitz is behind these two. Jordan Butler in 5th is behind Horowitz. Cord Schmidt up into 6th. Gianni Mauro up into 7th. Caleb Pocock 8th. 9th is Boley. And 10th is, well, I was going to say Friedhofer, but Steve Blethen just was able to sneak through and steal that spot.
A good little scrum here between Noah Harmon and the 25, the 50 of Blethen, and the 89 of Friedhofer, and even more behind them. Alares, Schweid, Wozencroft all in this pile up here. 6 cars entering turn number 8. Nose to tail. The 25 turns in and takes that spot away from the 50. That's P10.
Beautiful move there by Noah Harmon. Just a superb run here. Now, looking at the back of Friedhofer's car, almost looks like he's running a modified. He's got damage on both of the rear corners, showing a lot of tire out there at this stage. As we take a look here at the 89, there is Friedhofer. And take a look at that right corner. You can see that's dinged up.
Certainly is. A little gain there for Skip Brock Jr. on Morgan Burkhardt. That sector through. I wonder if Morgan made a rare mistake. They've closed that gap now to 9/10 of a second. It's actually the closest it's been in any of the racing so far tonight.
Yeah, I mean, he had a 1.5-second lead at one point, and that has definitely come down here.
I wonder if it was the 9:31 Levi and Knupp that they had to navigate through as a 31 as Skip Brock Jr. dives up the inside. Wonder if that was potentially the cause of the slow up there, having to navigate through lap traffic at an inopportune time.
I think you are spot on there. And obviously, nice job there, though, by Levi Canup opening the wheel up and not impeding Nicholas Resputo too much. But what that's done, though, it did give Brock about, what is that, 6-7 car lengths right now over Resputo, so he doesn't have to worry about his mirrors too much, and he can just drive his lines, doesn't have to defend, and we'll see what he's able to do. See how, what things are looking like here. It was down to 9/10, as you said. We'll see what it's like at the end of this lap. Ooh.
Wow, Carlos Mendana, who had a couple incidents in race one. He's gotten rear-ended once already, but up to 17th. Max Bankin right behind, who's up from 26th place into 18th.
Yeah, Bankin was pretty close to getting into the back of him again, and that's not exactly what he needs at this stage, the 27 of Mendana, because he's already got a pretty wrinkled back of that car. But good battling here. We've seen, the battles just seem to be a bit tighter. Whoa. Did he just lunch a motor?
Yeah, blew the motor up. Greg misshifted.
Oh, man.
And I think if we ride on board, we should be able to hear the misshift. And that is a 2-1, Greg.
Yep. Boom.
Oh, man. Boom.
Ouch. That's too bad. He was having a really fun run. A lot of cars in pit lane right now having their issues, but most of the field out on track and putting in a really solid run at this point. And because we didn't have that incident early up near the front of the pack, we don't have those huge gaps developing early. So got some really good battling going on in a variety of different places. Up on board right now with the 26 of Boley, sitting 9th at this stage. And looking at the back of Gianni Morrow, that was the 8th spot right now. And you can see in front of Morrow is Pocock, in front of him is Schmidt. Not a lot of distance between these guys.
Yeah, all within striking distance, certainly. As we've still got 17 minutes to go, so quite a ways left here. Boley's going to get a nice late exit and throttles up a lot sooner than Morrow does, and now he's going to have the run up to turn 8. In the slipstream, he'll look left, see if Morrow will give it to him, and he will. So he'll have a little bit of a run here up to the inside at turn 8.
Ooh, and then Morrow feints just a little bit. We'll see if he gets on the brakes. No, he decides not worth the risk. Boley tucks back in behind Morrow and realized he didn't have the run. And that's the thing, you get a really nice run out of 6, Kyle, and then what happens is as you start bending through 7, sometimes there's just nothing you can do with it, but these guys are back at it again, and this time, great run by Boley. He's through on Morrow.
Yeah, he's not quite clear. I think by the time they turn into 11, he will be clear. Yes, he has it. And on the brakes now for 12, and nicely done. He actually picked up the left rear tire on corner entry there. Just got that thing completely loaded up. Now dancing through the chicanes, lead back onto the front straight. Such a fun section, and then that clobbering onto the banking that we've seen all night.
That's just unbelievable. And as long as you've got a tire on the curbing, if you've got your right sides on the grass, but the left sides are on the curb, you're okay?
Generally, yeah.
There?
So iRacing's off-track detection is actually done by the center point of the car, but they include the curbing. So if you look top down here, if you can keep the center point of the car over just the very far off edge of the curb, you're good.
Okay.
So very tight corners can lead you into trouble, though, because where that center point will kind of cut the apex a little bit, very tight corners. So you have to be cautious with how much you cut.
That makes sense. And, a lot of these guys are driving that to absolute perfection, because they get into these turns and the inside tires are unweighted going over the grass, but that center point's still on that curb, and driving it really well here.
Yeah, and this is something you can really do with the Miatas, is climb up on these curbs. A lot of the apex curbs in the chicane sections and even the first sector are very tall, so you can get the inside tires up on top of them and kind of hook the car around and help you corner a lot. So if you are able to kind of get to the inside and get the left front tire up on it and the left-hander, you're going to be a lot quicker than someone that is a little afraid to upset the balance of the car. It's a trade-off, though, and the faster cars you get and the stiffer suspension you get, that can really upset the chassis. As Jordan Butler and Horowitz are having an absolute fantastic battle here through the last couple of corners of this racetrack.
And did you see the absolute different lines they use coming out of turn 8 and 9? just unbelievable which way they were going. Horowitz went way up high, drafting a car. Butler went down, almost down to the apron, trying to shorten the run-up. And by the time they got down into 10 and 11, it was about the same.
Yeah, again, we talked about a couple of the corners that you can't really deviate, and the last corner in particular is one of them, but everywhere else, you can get very creative, and you see Horowitz take a very shallow line into turn 3 because of the lap traffic, and Jordan Butler has a little bit wider entry, but they're both still on top of each other now at the exit of turn 4 and 5, and this is a great fight inside the top 5.
Yeah, but the amount of time it took them to get by the lap car has cost them the better part of, I think, 3 or 4 seconds to Burkhardt, Brock Jr., and Resputo. And Burkhardt is just not in the margins he did in that first race, but he's eased away to the tune of a couple of seconds here. But at this point in the first race, he was already up by about 5. So right now, Brock and Resputo are staying right in there. But then here's that group, Horowitz, Butler, and then the lap car, and then the blue car, Court Schmidt, would be the next one in line. And boy, that was well done.
Nice textbook pass there at turn 8. Not much else to say about that. Just turned down underneath the 21 and through he went.
Yeah, Butler doing a beautiful job in that orange and black 72. Now, I'll tell you what, that lap car has got some speed, but then he overshoots corners, runs wide, and scrubs his momentum. But when he's, keeps it on the track and the line's right, he's got some pace, doesn't he?
Does, and he actually gave the 21 a big shove down the backstretch, and that kept him in the drafting zone here up on Jordan Butler. So this fight might not be totally complete yet. I do think Butler has a couple tenths of an advantage on Horowitz, one lap after the other. We'll keep our eyes on that. We're past the halfway point here. 12 minutes and 25 seconds remaining in race 2 of the night.
One of the really good battles that's out there right now is Court Schmidt and Caleb Pocock, 6th and 7th, separated by 0.3 of a second. Really, really close. And Pocock has been coming. He's closed it up on Court a bit.
Court's driving really well tonight, just putting the car where he needs to put it, but now he's got pressure from behind. He went exclusively forward in race 1, Greg. Now he's facing the threat of going backwards just one spot.
Exactly. Did you see the push that Caleb Pocock had there out of turn 4 and 5? It was unbelievable.
A big time understeer. Again, with the soft suspension, the Miata will absolutely show. If you push the car too hard, it will understeer massively. If you push it too hard and get oversteer, it will show you that pretty easily. But here comes Pocock down the inside for turn 8. A little bit later on the brakes, but Schmidt kind of releases the pedal. You see the brake rotors glowing on the 172, but Pocock gets by him.
Well, it's just how hard the braking is down into turn 8. I mean, you're coming from a long, quick run, and then you are stomping on the binders here.
Watch right there.
Look at that.
Just behind the front wheel, and they're going a lot less on the number 6. And iRacing does model the brake temperature in the car. So if you're kind of abusing your brake pedal, iRacing will show that with the glowing brake rotors, and it will actually, you can't quite boil fluid here in iRacing, but you will lose a little bit of braking grip if you overheat your brakes. Now, in a Miata, you can cool them off pretty quickly as Court scrapes the wall out of turn 13, but I think Court's using a little bit more brake than Pocock, and we can see that there.
Well, Court did a lot of his initial sim building and testing in tanks. Tank sim, so, grazing walls and stomping on the binders, he's used to that.
Didn't even scratch the paint. He'll be just fine.
Yeah, his mirror's still in good shape, so he didn't get, it wasn't that big of a hit. But up front now, here's that battle for second. You can see Burkhardt now has opened it up to almost 3 seconds. As Resputo now, as we are coming up into the final 10 minutes of this, starting to up the ante a little bit in his attack on Brock for that second spot.
And the clouds have come over the racetrack here a little bit too. The track temp's still hot. We won't see a lot of transition in terms of the temperature, but you can see it's physically darker out there. Got a little bit of a storm cloud over the top of Homestead-Miami Speedway.
And I suppose some of that depends on where they're measuring that temp, and if it's not in the cloud's path, it's still going to stay high. But this track also tends to retain heat. It doesn't dissipate it super quickly, and so you just have to keep that in mind here.
iRacing has also modeled in recent years the below the asphalt surface. They've modeled a couple of feet down in terms of temperature capture in the solar insulation. So not only will the asphalt heat up, but so will the dirt underneath it, and that will retain some temperature as well.
Here's that battle. Every time they hit that, I'm expecting something to break or the car just to rebound straight into the wall. It's so violent, but they've got it figured out here. And just keeping an eye on things here, because here's that battle, and then that battle between Pocock and Schmidt. Once Pocock got through, he's opened up a little bit on Court, and for Court, he's got to have his mirrors, looking at his mirrors a little bit, because the 26, the Charles Boley, is starting to close in a little bit as well. So we got some really good battles unfolding here, but none better than the one we were just watching. And now Court has to get by on Levi Kennup, and the graphics on that car, the old Camel livery with the Elf fuel on it, is really, really sharp, no question about it. But he certainly has affected a couple of battles here. But he has speed when he's able to just string one together.
Yeah, and that can even be more frustrating for the lead
true.
lap cars. Man, this guy's fast; he won't get out of the way. Up front,
look at the back there of the 26 of Boley. He was dinged up in that first race, and he's still driving wounded here, but he's got speed as we hop on board with Nicholas Resputo.
Oh, he just hit the top of the rev limiter in second gear, and it just killed the run just enough. I mentioned old school H-pattern gearboxes, Greg. You got your 3 pedals in the foot box, and you got your 6-speed manual transmission lever. You'll never touch 6th on a racetrack in this car, but shifting and the simple clutch in, upshift. Oh, big slide there for the 11, got the tire in the dirt. It's one of those things that sounds so simple, but you have to put it together shift after shift after shift to really maximize the potential of this tiny motor in this car.
Yeah, I mean, that's the momentum thing we're talking about, and anything that affects that momentum is going to be super costly here, because it just takes so long to get back up to speed. And I'll tell you, that last time through 13 and 14 sure looked to me like Resputo was awfully close to maybe shorting that corner based on the rules that we've talked about. So he's got to be a little bit careful there as we come through 4. And now on it. Exit 5, and here's that run into 6.
Morgan Burkhardt has lost a whole bunch of time, Greg. Only 1.5 seconds ahead of Skip Brock Jr., so I'm not sure if there was a slow up or something. His last lap was a 45.5, so right on pace, but he's now only 1.5 seconds clear of Brock Jr. and Resputo. Not sure what happened, or if he had some lap traffic.
I think that might be Ricardo Ray in that blue and black car, and that may have slowed him up.
And you're
right on. This is opportunity here. Brock has to be able to juke and jive and get through clean. Ray opens the door. Beautiful job by Ray. Just open the wheel up, let those guys have the line, but there, Resputo, I mean, Ray couldn't hit the disappear button much more than he did. And that's going to hurt Resputo, that's for sure. Yeah,
as soon as Burkhardt got clear racetrack, he stretched it back out another 3 or 4 tenths of a second. So just a momentary slowdown for Morgan Burkhardt. Going back to what you mentioned in the last couple corners and cutting the racetrack here, Greg, one corner cut, iRacing will force you to slow down about 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds. It will destroy any semblance of a battle you have if you get too greedy with those chicanes in the last couple corners. So you really have to behave yourself. You can get pretty aggressive here in particular, but there are some tracks on the schedule we're going to go to that you'll have to be extra vigilant going through the apexes.
Well, I'll tell you, Resputo, I think, was right on the edge, but obviously had it figured out because he did not get dinged anything in terms of his momentum.
There's one. Get Brock Jr. slow down in turn 1.
Ouch.
Let's go back and see where that was. And, well, it must not have been the first corner. Maybe it was down here at turn 2. Oh, no, it's a blown motor for Skip Brock Jr.
Oh, my.
And he drops down the order and on board with them. Skipped a gear and bam.
Man, what a shame. He was having a superb race.
Oh, man. That's one of the.
That gives. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, that's one of the things about sim racing and H-pattern gearboxes, Greg. I don't know if you're really able to get a car in a wrong gear on a downshift and let the clutch out and have it go in gear. Most cars will probably, complain when you're trying to jam a gear in like that. But in iRacing or in any simulator, you can physically put your lever wherever you think it should be, and when you let that clutch out, it's just going to go. There's no way to physically keep you from making a wrong shift. There's no mechanical interaction or intervention, and that can make it even harder to shift and get things right here in the simulator.
No, there's no detent, you're saying.
Oh, well, just if you're trying to, if you try to put a car in reverse on the highway, it won't let you do it no matter what you do. But in iRacing, you could throw the car in reverse at 150 because there's no gears spinning it under your shift lever in the real world here. So that's really what'll cost you, is there's no way to feel that you're doing something wrong until it's too late.
And going back to this battle, we had been watching Charles Boley. He got around Kurt Schmidt. Schmidt went back by him, and then I think it may have been because of a dropout going into that ultra crucial turn 8, and Schmidt, it dropped out on him, and when it came back, he just overran the corner a little bit, and that led Boley right back through and into the 6th spot.
It's not over yet. Court drives it in hard into 1. Boley turns in hard into turn 2, kind of just chucked the thing in. And there's some dramas up ahead. Pocock's stuck trackside. Yeah,
something happened there, and it must have been a little bit of contact.
Oh,
see, we check. Yep. 21. I don't know whether if the 21 got into Pocock, that's Horowitz, and knocked him sideways, or whether he just lost it. Oh, Pocock lost it on his own.
Then tangled with the 21 and then was stopped for a moment, and that's it. The 6 car is retired. Too much damage to continue. And Charles Boley's car is destroyed. What happened to him?
Oh, my goodness. Into this race here. All right.
Oh, I see smoke.
Yep.
Same thing.
Blew a motor, too, it looks like.
Yep. Couldn't find the gear, and bam, too late. Man. We've seen that happen a number of times, Greg, and it's going to be a thing all season long. Just these H-pattern gearbox cars, they will bite you.
It's tricky, no question about it. And, when you haven't grown up doing a lot of this shifting, sometimes that can be a factor as well. But everybody's in this is probably, pretty adept at it. But you can still make just that little mistake. And, that's one of the things as we watch Burkhardt here, just continuing to stretch his margin. That, and maybe it's, it's I'm older and the nostalgia thing. I'm playing that card. But, you used to be able to hustle a guy into a mistake.
Right.
Have him miss a shift, have him have to fumble around for gears. And, nowadays with the paddle shifts and everything, it just doesn't happen. And this is what makes this so compelling, because you can literally just say, we're going to go back in time a little bit.
Court Schmidt, Brian Horowitz into turn 1, little side-by-side. Court grabs 4th place away. I think Brian's nursing a little bit of damage from that incident down at turn 1 last time by, but Court grabs it, top 5 right now for the 172.
Ooh, Court's got to do a big save. Turned into the yaw. Nice job. But, yeah, he got tagged. And, pretty impressive, too, because, Noah Harmon, he'd gone through on Court. Court got him back. And then, he was able to just ease away and then get through on Horowitz. So, yeah, great run by Court Schmidt. So it's Burkhardt and Rasputo, Butler in the final podium spot, Court Schmidt and Brian Horowitz.
Well done for Court Schmidt. Remember, he started the night, I think, 16th in race 1, drove up to 7th. 15th to 7th, and then from 7th to 4th in race number 2. Great progress. Meanwhile, Morgan Burkhardt's up on the back straightaway. He will be coming to the white flag this time by, and he is 3.7 seconds clear. Remember, it was just 4 or 5 laps ago. He only had a 1-second advantage over second place.
Yeah, he has just turned it up a little bit here late in the going, or the others have drifted off just a little bit. Last lap, Burkhardt a 46.1, Rasputo a 46.7 essentially. So it's right now this has been Burkhardt's day, and he's got one more lap to make it a sweep. 2 poles, 2 checkers, and he just has to hang on to it here. And if Court Schmidt, I don't know, he's a bit back, and there's no way he's really going to do it unless Butler has some sort of an issue. But you look at the when it says Full Send Sims on top of the scoring tower, look at the at their new slogan, and I think it is perfect for a sim company. Practice makes podium.
I love that line, Greg. Practice won't make you perfect; it might get you 3rd.
Yeah, exactly.
In Jordan Butler's case, but But it's going to be very difficult for any driver this season in a field this competitive to waltz in here without any practice and go up to the top of the board. Just not likely. Morgan Burkhardt has put lots of time in. So has Rasputo and Butler and Schmidt and all the others. They put lots of time in, whether in the real world or the sim world. They've got their laps in here at Homestead in this NCMX5 Cup car, and putting it to good use tonight, all that practice they've done.
Well, whether it's it's in a race car on a track, or whether it's in an iRacing game, you still have to have laps familiarity. That's what gives you the confidence. And right now, I think Morgan Burkhardt is delivering a real message to this entire field about, I'm setting the bar here. You guys better figure it out.
He's already
Look at that little wiggle there, having some fun. Rasputo's not that far. He's actually. And I think Burkhardt's, is he giving it up, or is he having sort of a problem? Because here comes Rasputo, incredibly close.
A little too close for my comfort,
through.
Greg.
Yeah.
Oh, boy, banking, slam down. Ooh. Final time coming to the checkers.
Here comes Burkhardt. Here comes Rasputo coming after him. So close, not enough. Actually gives him a tap right as they cross the line.
Oh, man.
I wonder if Burkhardt was making a bit of a show of it here.
I think so. Jordan Butler, wow. P3, gets it done on podium. Court Schmidt in the 172 brings it home in fourth. Great run.
Absolutely great run for Court, and rounding out your top five, Brian Horowitz. And under huge pressure from the 25 and Noah Harmon, who's been wicked quick today in that first race, just didn't have the luck go his way.
Behind them, Blethen, Amaro, Schweid, and Wozencroft, the rest of your top 10. And there's still a battle back here for 13th. That's Beans Forster. Remember, he had that contact from the 88. He's rebounded to 14th with after a pit stop to fix some significant left side damage. Up in the top 15. Nice work.
Yeah, and Carlos Mendana, you remember him in the first race. He could not keep that thing on the track, and actually put in a charging race here up into the top 15. You can see all the damage in the back of that car, but he made it work.
Nicely done by Carlos Mendana.
That's a great recovery drive for sure.
I would say so. From 24th up to 14th plus 10. Let's have a look at our race results and go on through here, Greg. Top 10. Well, we got to head back to page number 1 here. Kick things off, Morgan Burkhardt. 2 for 2 tonight, Greg. That's a great way to start a championship run. Yeah,
it is. 2 poles as well. I think he was having fun on that last lap, letting Nicholas get close. Butler completes your podium. Schmidt 4th, Horowitz 5th. Harmon, Blethen, Morrow, Schweid, and Wozencroft your top 10.
And moving on now to 11 through 20, Seth Spolman up inside the top 15 in 11. Jim Friedhofer, Beans Forster in that recovery after that collision. Carlos Mendana and Alfredo Zidane in the number 16 in the top 15, Greg.
Then in 16th, Charles Boley, Caleb Pocock, who was so quick early in 17th. Max Bank in 18th. Levi Knupp, who was in a lot of battles, even though he wasn't in them for position, in 19th. And rounding out the top 20, David Carrillo.
And 21st place, Ricardo Ray in the 28. Who actually had quite a bit of pace a lap down, but was kind of in the mix there with the leaders. Jason Myers, Skip Brock Jr. did not have the finish that he was looking for with that blown engine. Dave Brown, Jeremy Fletcher, Luis Milares, Michael Brophy, Celine Roland, and Enrique Tomeo, they had early outs in race number 2.
Absolutely. A few blown engines from those missed shifts. So that's obviously the message there, that going to have to be working on that just a little bit. But I'll tell you what, talk about an exciting couple of races here, with the exception of Morgan Burkhardt, who just clocked everybody and then decided to play around a little bit on that last lap just for fun.
Well, one of the drivers that's joined us in the waiting area here was actually Mr. Forster, so we'll chat with him. Beans Forster brings it home in this one, 13th after some contact and a drop down the order. Beans, take us through your race. Race 1 went a little smoother than race 2, but you fought back as best you could.
Yeah, I bet I could have picked up a couple more spots if I actually went into the pits the lap I had the contact. But I had 2 more spins after that. My right rear was just so towed in. The right hand turns just sent me around.
Well, that provides some challenges out there, but you did salvage something, obviously. But you were right up in that battle at the sharp end of things. Take us through what happened there.
I was trying to just make up as many spots as I can and not try and kill the tires because with how the car's set up, these tires really get worn down at the end. So it's just trying to manage everything so that if come on the last lap, if I needed to use them, I can abuse them.
We always got to have something left to fight with. You're absolutely right. But you were in the middle of it, up in the front end an awful lot. Absolutely great run, and great to have you as part of this championship. You planning to be around for most of it or all of it?
Oh, absolutely. I tried to help Court set this up, and the full Sims guys, everyone working with Court to try and really put on a good show for everybody. So absolutely, I'm going to be around for the entire season.
Wonderful. Well, you definitely were putting on a great show today. Delightful to know you're going to be around for the whole thing. Look forward to calling you again.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks for hosting. Thanks for commentating.
You bet.
All right, moving on now to our third place finisher. Jordan Butler brings it home in P3. Started race number 2 in 5th after finishing their race 1. Jordan, congratulations. Got it on the podium. Take us through your night.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I didn't really qualify too well, so I was stuck in the middle of the pack that first race. Got a little lucky to get through the traffic and set me up for a good starting position for the second race. In that second race, I got a little fortunate that there was an incident in front of me. And then I got by, made a pass on, who was it? Brian, I think, Horowitz. And I just kind of cruised at the end. Yeah, so it was kind of tricky at the start of the races, but by the end of the race, I was just kind of cruising at the end. But really the hardest part was I've been practicing for Daytona all week, and these cars are nothing like a prototype. And the speed difference and the grip difference and the, playing with the car, trying to drift it a little bit, it's like completely different than what I've been doing the last 2 weeks. So that's probably the hardest part, really.
And is that what you were alluding to when you said the start was a little bit difficult, or was it just the traffic and all the cars around you?
No, it was the traffic, because there's people everywhere. I haven't raced with most of these guys before, so I don't know who's aggressive, who's going to be safe. And it's the first race of the season, so
sure,
everyone's super aggressive. Everyone's really going for it. And I just wanted to stay out of trouble, because I knew if I stayed out of trouble, I could do pretty well.
Well, you played that to absolute perfection and found yourself on the podium in race 2. Well done.
Hey, thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
All right,
you going to be around all season?
I'm going to try to. It's a little early. I got to get home from work, but but I'll try to stick around all season. There's some good prizes on the line.
Yeah, there are. And, man, you belong, so we hope to see a lot of you. Great run.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Jordan Butler, P3 tonight in the number 72. Now for second place, Nick Rice-Sputo in the number 11 brings it home in second after finishing 4th in race 1. Nicholas, some good battles there up front all night long. Take us through your battles there with Jordan, with Morgan, and then, of course, with the 23 as well as the 32 of Skip Rock Jr.
Yeah, it was a blast. I don't know who was in front of me in the last race, but got absolutely annihilated in the grass. And then V2 blew their motor, so the seas kind of parted for me.
Well, sometimes, you make your own luck, and, you were there when everything else happened. But you were up front in both races, and, the battling was absolutely furious. Obviously, Morgan had things covered a little bit, but, the racing you were doing, particularly with Brock, was just fantastic.
Yeah, it was a blast. It was a lot of fun.
Good deal. We going to see you all season?
Yes, sir. I will be here.
We love to. I love to hear it. And just so we know it for sure, how do you say your last name?
Rice-Sputo.
Oh, we're close.
Yeah,
we were close. We had Risputo and Risaputo, but now we know.
I've heard rice pudding before as well, so.
I can imagine. And I feel for you with a last name like Creamer. I got a lot of weird stuff too, so we'll get it right for you. You deserve it, man. Great racing.
Thanks. You guys have a good one.
All right, you too.
Thanks, Nick. Moving on now to our race winner, Morgan Burkhardt. 2 for 2 tonight for Morgan Burkhardt in the number 40. Morgan, tonight you were the star of the field. The belle of the ball. You drove away from the pack multiple times, getting slowed down by lap traffic. Take us through your night. You saw a lot of it in your mirror.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I couldn't have really gone much better than that, so I'm very happy with that. It was weird because I didn't feel very fast, but I ended up being pretty fast. So I was kind of worried about the tire management in the second race. because I think it's the extra weight that we have to run. That's a 250 kilograms, something like that. And the really hot track you get 7 laps of tire and they just turn into rubber crisps. So that was kind of the name of the game in the second race, but other than that, it's a lot of fun.
Well, the amazing thing, maybe why you didn't feel fast was because you were so consistent with your lines. Watching you lap after lap, unless you got caught in traffic or the like, you were at every corner, you were running the exact same line, it seemed, just right up to the edge of where grip was, never exceeding it. And, nobody was able to match that consistency. And, I mean, it was brilliant. And I got to ask you, though, what was going on in that last lap coming out of 8?
Well, that's a funny story. Nick and I we're friends and we race for the same team. So we're kind of just trying to slow it for him, get us both in the same shot if we wanted to take a finish line picture. But yeah, it was, for whatever reason, this car fits me like a glove and it handles a lot like my real car does, which is really weird because my real car is a Honda CRX. But yeah, it works
unique
for me.
Well, clearly, I mean, it was a dominant performance. And 2 questions: you're going to be around all season, and the next track coming up, is that one where you think you're going to be able to run as well?
Yeah, I do plan to run the whole season, and Daytona is it's Daytona, so it'll be you can be like a second off the pace and still run with the front pack because the draft is ridiculous, especially in these cars. They punch pretty big holes and they don't really go very fast in straight lines, so the straights are really, really, really long. So it'll be interesting. I think it'll be a lot more interesting to watch and to drive.
Well, it was a joy to watch you drive in this one. Kyle, any last questions?
I think I'm all set. We got Court Schmidt waiting. We'll chat with him real quick, and we'll wrap things up here shortly. Thanks, Morgan.
Thank you.
Great run.
Moving on now, we got Court Schmidt in the house, finished 4th in race number 2, 7th in race number 1, started everything in 15th in race 1, Court. Congratulations, first of all. Drove through the field a couple of times tonight, up inside the top 5. How do you feel?
Whew, these guys are crazy, man. I'll tell you what, that was a blast, though. Man, there's some good drivers out there.
Well, and you established your name right amongst them. I mean, coming from where you did after qualifying to get up into 7th, and then it was insane, what you were dealing with in race 2, but you were able to stick right in there.
Yeah, I'm sweating big time. Big time. That transition coming off of, through the chicane there onto the front stretch is brutal on a direct drive wheelbase. And man, it's a lot of work, but tried to run consistent. But no, I'm just glad everybody's having a good time. We got a lot of great drivers, and I was in the car whole time, but I can't wait to see what you guys did for a broadcast. I think it's going to be outstanding, so I'm excited to see it.
Well, we sure had fun with it, and I'll tell you what, everybody we've interviewed so far has said we're definitely going to be on board for the full season, so I think this is working. And you know what? 4th, a little bit more practice, and you're going to make that podium.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I like to hear.
All right, Court, thanks so much. We'll see you next week for the next round. We're headed to Sebring next. That'll be a fun one. So, Court, thanks for checking in, and congratulations on a top 5.
Yep. Thank you, guys. Take care.
All right, man.
All right, Greg, final thoughts here. Round 1 from Homestead-Miami Speedway is complete. The next couple rounds, we don't deviate too far, at least from the state. We're headed to Sebring International Raceway next week, and then followed up by Daytona International Speedway, then Barber, Road Atlanta, the Charlotte Roval, VIR, Lime Rock, and then my home track, Watkins Glen.
Oh, boy. I mean, it's just going from strength to strength, isn't it? These tracks are great. Clearly, the drivers that we've talked to that are going to be around for the season, they are just superb. Burkhardt has obviously thrown the gauntlet down just a little bit here, but I think there are those that are going to be ready for it, and I think we're in for an absolutely wonderful season. And again, huge thank you, of course, to Court for Full Send Sims for creating this Full Send Sims Esports iRacing series and this Spec Miata season in particular. And we talked about the sims. I just wanted to mention that Full Send Sims offer real-world trackside sim rentals. So if you're at an actual race and you think, man, I need a little bit more sim time while you're at the event, bring your coach in. they can take care of you there. It's pretty cool what they do. And again, a huge shout out to Frank Rodriguez at 3P Logistics for being one of the associate sponsors, and Rob Greenwood as well with Final Turn Motorsports. It is absolutely great to have them on board. They know what they're doing in real world racing. They know what they're doing in sim racing, and it's a great partnership. And Kyle, always an absolute pleasure to work with you, my friend.
Always fantastic, Greg. Fun first round. Round 2, though, Sebring International Raceway next week. It's bound to be a blast, Greg, as we're wrapping things up here. Make sure everyone checks in. Also, like the Full Send Sims Facebook page and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not already to make sure you never miss another one of these again, Greg.
Absolutely. And as you said, Sebring coming up. Remember, 7 o'clock is when we'll be on the air. The actual session starts at 6:30 with practice. We'll cover the last 10 minutes of quali in both races. So make sure and join us again. Next event, Sebring International Raceway here for this first season of Spec Miata Racing for the FSS, the Full Send Sims Esports Racing iRacing Series. Great to have you with us. Again, I'm Greg Creamer. Kyle Heyer, thanks very much. We'll see you next week from Sebring.